So tonight's Dhamma talk, I like to dedicate it to Mr. Lai Kuan Yew. He was my uh, school teacher in St. Xavier's, and he also my uh, Dhamma teacher when I was in a teenager. The whole thing that when begin the Dhamma path is that sometimes some of us have a mentor, a guide. So he was my guide when I was that young. But the thing is that in the beginning, I don't really like the Dhamma because he was my teacher in Malay language. He was teaching Malay language, and I have to see him every day. So when I was in Form 2, he was the Malay teacher for my class, and kind of like I was cornered to learn the Dhamma. Cornered in the sense that, so one day, somewhere in January, I think, he mentioned it. He said, your brother is in the Buddhist society. When are you going to come? Not to my key. I don't want to go. But when you have to see him every day, kind of like, you're forced to go. Then forced to go. Then that is where we begin to learn the Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path, 5 Precepts, all these things. Then that is where all the Dhamma begins. So I wished him that wherever he is, then may he be happy. May he be peaceful wherever he is. Able to see the Dhamma, then finally get out of this samsara. Okay? So we come back to this talk. Now here we are still at the Noble Eightfold Path. The path leading to the cessation of dukkha. The fourth of the Four Noble Truths. The fourth truth. Now, the fourth truth here, it's the name of the fourth truth is the path leading to the cessation of dukkha. That means the Noble Eightfold Path is for the sake of the cessation of dukkha. And let us not forget that. Because in the last week, on Monday, I was talking about, sometimes when we practice, may not necessarily fall into the Noble Eightfold Path. Or sometimes when we do dana, or when we do sila, may not necessarily fall in the Noble Eightfold Path. If you do not have the right view. If you do not have the right view. Other words that you may do dana, you may do offerings, you may do a lot of giving. But if your giving does not fall with the right view, does not fall with the cessation, for the sake of the cessation of the dukkha, then it does not fall on the Noble Eightfold Path. But it's still wholesome. Definitely, it's still wholesome. The act of giving itself, it's wholesome. But because of the fourth, this is the noble truth, then we have to direct it for the cessation of dukkha. Then when we have that, then it falls under the Noble Eightfold Path. So too, your morality, your precepts, when you do something wholesome, you do charitable acts, you keep your vows in certain things, you you have gratitude, you have kindness, those type of things. although they are, as I said, they are wholesome, but as long if you direct it towards the cessation of dukkha, then it is for the sake of liberation. It becomes a foundation for your liberation. So usually at the end of the talk, or usually at the end of a dana, or after giving, after offering, the monks will chant to guide you, to help you, idang me danang, idang me punyang, idang me silang, nibbana sa pachayo hotu. That one is to help you, to remind you, so that our mind is guided towards the cessation of dukkha. So too when it comes to meditation also, as I said, meditation, again, it has to be guided for the cessation of dukkha. As I said, nowadays, generally a lot of people, including Buddhists also, they begin to attach to the mundane type of meditation. Mundane in the sense that they not necessary for the liberation, but only for the calmness and peacefulness of here and now, to overcome their, for example, their anxiety or depression or sadness and so on. Not necessary for liberation. And nowadays also they use this meditation a lot for self-motivation, a lot for like you coach somebody how they handle their time, manage their time, manage their pain, many ways. So these are, again, as I said, although they are wholesome, although they are good, but it does not fall under Noble Eightfold Path. It's not the path towards liberation. Then some of us may think that, so all the good deeds that I've done in the past, so it's not valid lah. That means, so what for I do all the good deeds and all the charitable deeds? I mean that one not counted? Yes, it's still wholesome, as I said. They are still wholesome. Until one day, let's say, you are convinced, you have that conviction about the teachings of the Buddha, the real proper teachings of the Buddha. Then when you really truly direct your mind for the sake of liberation, then all those wholesome deeds that you have done, it turns into that direction too. The merits that you have gained from those actions, you will turn to that direction. So not to be too concerned about what you have done or because of our ignorance in the past. It's just that right now, to bring that conviction, to bring that understanding, that faith on the teachings of the Buddha, that is very difficult. For a lot of people, you can hear the Dhamma talk again and again. You can go for dana again and again. You can keep your precepts day in, day out, but you may not able to be convinced about the teachings of the Buddha. So until you have that conviction, truly that you want to follow the teachings of the Buddha and you want to get out of this path, get out of this cycle of birth and rebirth, then only you falls into the Noble Eightfold Path. That is, in a way, quite narrow. Narrow in the sense that the conviction has to be there. Without the conviction, you can do anything. It's just like a ship, like a ship in the sea. You nowadays you have that the cruise to nowhere. You the whole ship can go turn and turn and turn in the ocean and so on. You got no place for it to be ashore. So now when you are able to direct your mind for the sake of liberation, then the whole ship is going to directly on that direction. So too is the same thing, means that all the things that you have done in the past, wholesome deeds will be guided towards that direction, cessation of dukkha. So that is one thing that we have to remind you all again and again. Now, here tonight we're going to look into the mindfulness. I'm not skipping a right effort at all. Here I'm not skipping the right effort at all, because the right effort has to come in together with the mindfulness. But it is the mindfulness that we want to develop, not like you want to develop the effort for something here and there and anything else. And that one, when we talk about morality, we talk about dana, those things you need effort, you need that mental effort in order for you to develop. I mean, to cultivate those things. But right now we are in the samadhi group. That means we want to cultivate the mind. We want to cultivate the mind right now, not just only on speech and action, but now is to further polishing the mind so that it become more free from all the defilements, and also become more stronger, and as a basis for the liberation. So here, the cultivation part. Now the cultivation part here is that the problem, there's a lot of problem with this cultivation. Again, if this cultivation is not done properly, then the problem is that you may go crazy. Chao for Yak Mo is quite true, actually. If you do it wrongly, if you want to cultivate the mind, you cultivate it wrongly, then that madness can come. I mean, it's crazy madness, all kinds of hallucination or speculation, or what you do not see, what you think that you see, or you believe that you've seen it. All kinds of things comes in, especially people are not properly guided. But if you direct the effort, develop with mindfulness, then you wouldn't able to fall into these trappings. You won't fall into this craziness. As long as you have that mindfulness, then you are safe. Whether you want to do samatha meditation, or whether you want to do vipassana meditation, or whether you want to do any form of meditation in this world. Without mindfulness, all the meditation goes, all the mental cultivation go haywire. That's why this is important that we direct that effort for the sake of development of mindfulness. Because every right form of development of the mind comes with that mindfulness. So the mindfulness is a very key ingredient for the mindfulness, for the development of the mind. Whether it's a worldly development or whether it's also for the Noble Eightfold Path, whichever that you want to talk about, you still need that mindfulness. Again and again, I emphasize this mindfulness. Usually this mindfulness thing, and the cultivation part of it now, and the cultivation part of that mindfulness, and also later part on concentration and wisdom and so on. The reason I talk about these things again and again, even during in the retreat and during talks here and there, I mention it again and again because for one important purpose is that nowadays I've seen a lot of meditators, whether they are under me or whether they are not under me, or whether they are samatha meditation or vipassana meditator. I hear a lot of times they want to get the jhana, they want to attain the jhana, They want to attain the insight knowledge, this insight, that insight. Yeah. But then when it comes to the developments toward getting it, they have not have much of idea how to do it. They do not have much of idea how to do it. They want the result, but the effort they're putting in, the cultivation that I was going to put in, they're not so concerned about that. Yeah. A number of sometimes I think in the past also I did mention about these things. Yeah. And because of that, then there's a lot of wrong meditation is going on around the world, even within the Buddhist circle also. That's why I'm so concerned. You see, when we talk about the 16 insight knowledge, and then we talk about the how one goes into insight leading to emergence. That when you actually see the consciousness that comes together with it, just before path and friction consciousness arises. Those sequence of consciousness that we talk about. Now, we talk about those subject because it is in a way connected to it. But if I don't talk about that subject, I feel quite okay. Yeah. I feel quite all right, even if you do not know about it. I mean, we know about it for the sake of knowledge. But if you do not know about mindfulness, if you do not know how to cultivate mindfulness, if you don't know how to cultivate the other mental factors later on that we're going to talk, that if you do not know how to cultivate that, then those things is not going to come in. Those insight knowledge, those jhana, those insight leading to emergence, they will not come in. Maybe you can talk and you can debate this insight and that insight, but gong song, a lot of time just for the sake of argument only. But if you do not understand exactly how to cultivate that, this mindfulness, this effort, this wisdom factor and concentration and so on. If you do not know how to develop those things, then, as I said, those insights, they will not come. They only remain as theory only. So when they not come as the real knowledge, as experiential knowledge, then there won't be any liberation, any nibbana for you to realize. So that's why it is important that we must know how to cultivate them. Another problem before we talk about mindfulness, another problem also many times I've seen that yogis go through, or not yogis go through, and also other yogis go through, that I've seen, that one of the biggest problem is that they can't differentiate what is mindfulness and what is concentration. These two, they cannot differentiate. To give you a general aspect, why people cannot differentiate of these two is that mindfulness, it's an active state of mind that your mind has to be present, alert. That state of mind. Whereas when it comes to concentration, it's more towards calmness, more towards peacefulness. Although the mind is more like focusing, but it goes towards peacefulness. Now, when you have these two state of mind that's going on, if you tell a new meditator, a beginner meditator, a beginner yogi, within these two state of mind, which one do you think that the meditator will like? You want the active state of mind, or you want the very calm state of mind? Surely the yogi will think that the calm state of mind is the right one. Because he have no experience about different states of mind. So most of the time, if the yogi is not properly guided, they will fall into this trap. And when they fall into this trap, the problem is that they may think that they are still doing like vipassana or samatha, and they fall into that trap. And it's difficult for the mind to get out from it. Because it is very pleasant, and your everyday life is a lot of like a lot of restless mind, a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, sometimes a lot of tension and stress. And then when you want to meditate, you want to have that calm. Why you want to have that alertness among? Why it's more than enough already? You may think that it's more than enough. Right now you want that calmness. So the mind. So when a yogi, when a beginner yogi, when it starts that meditation, if it's not guided, naturally he will go into the path. It will go into that concentration rather than mindfulness. So mindfulness, it has to be guided. It has to be guided in order that the mind knows how to stick on the mindfulness before you branch out into samatha or vipassana. Before you branch out into samatha or vipassana. So mindfulness has to come in. Yeah. Without that mindfulness, the samatha meditation, the object of the samatha meditation will not stabilize. It will be a lot of hindrances is going to come in and disturb the mind. So do the same thing when you are doing vipassana meditation. If you doubt that mindfulness, your object also will not be clear, will not be stabilized, and all the hindrances will come in. They are the same, they are parallel. So the beginning part here is that mindfulness. Is this mindfulness. Now, some yogis again, sometimes especially like in the Vipassana yogis, they thought that if you practice Vipassana, then when you practice Vipassana, then after that when your mind calms down, let's say you don't do Vipassana, then the mind goes into calmness and so on, then you may think that at least I go into samatha ma. They may think that, they may think that I go into samatha meditation. That is not samatha meditation. And then I talk about this talk, somewhere, I forgot, somewhere in January or somewhere in December, I talk about the Vipassana path, samatha path, and the deluded path. If you're not practicing Vipassana, let's say you start with Vipassana, and if you practice the wrong way of Vipassana, it doesn't go into Vipassana. It doesn't go into samatha path. It will go into a deluded path. Some yogis think that they still go into they thought that, oh, if I don't get the first prize, at least I get consolation. They said no. So you go into a wrong path altogether, or you go into a deluded path. So hopefully, if those who are practicing samatha meditation, if you are practicing the wrong path, doesn't mean that you suddenly go into vipassana. Usually they will not think. But between the samatha and the deluded path, that one is even more, even though minor, because it involves both partner, is also calmness. But one calmness comes with mindfulness, which is the right path. And one calmness comes without mindfulness. That is the wrong path. Just to keep it, just to give you a rough idea. But it's easier to speak in words. But when you are doing it, you have no idea what is going through during this time. Until you have a teacher or you have a proper teacher to guide you on the right path. Now, so therefore, you must, beginning of this mental cultivation. So you must make the effort to bring about that mindfulness. And it's just like that, which one that I've mentioned? In the right effort. Now, let me see, where did I go? Yes, Samadhi group. All right. No, not this one. I don't want this one. Okay, hold on. Last week, no, not this. Monday, well, Monday I mentioned that this right effort, the right effort here, right now, is that when you want to start off with a meditation, then it's the number 3 that you started off. The number 3 you start off, you don't have any wholesome mental state right now. And the mindfulness is a wholesome mental state. So you generate the desire for the arising of whole, unarisen, wholesome states of mind. So he makes an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind, and strive. 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 This one. It's not so. It. This is nowadays. People have the wrong meaning of of developing of the mind. Nowadays, people thought that developing of the mind is just sit down there. The usually the one that I like to use is you sit down there, you watch the birds passing through, and then you drink a coffee or tea, and then you watch them passing through. Oh, right now I'm in the present. Right now I'm in the. So I have mindfulness right now. So looking at the birds, being present, being right here, looking at the sunrise or looking at the sunset, I'm being present right here and now. This is not striving lah. And nowadays, as I said, with that, the example that I've mentioned, nowadays people put those things in the Facebook. They put down a nice diagram, a nice picture about a sunset. They put a nice picture about a scenery, and you sit down there, and you just then they caption below there, oh, be present, be happy, something like that. That is not striving. So don't go and fall into those type of traps. Those type of trap, this is not. So it is have to be applied with striving, a lot of effort into cultivating this mindfulness. Uh, uh. So a lot of times people ask me, Bante, if I don't go to retreat, can I meditate at home or not? And how to meditate at home? I mean, yes, you can meditate at home, but as I said, you don't expect it like what you can get in a retreat, because you're not really striving. You're only doing like 1 hour per day if you have that time, or half an hour a day. You're only just like, the meditation at home one is like that. The fire, there's no fire. The charcoal is just only bara only. It's just like with ember only. You try to fan it only that time. A little fan, they try to fan it only. There's nothing much. It's just that you try to keep the heat there only. There's no fire. There's not much of a fire. You just keep the heat there only. If you just like meditate 1 hour a day or half an hour a day, then the rest of the day you go eat, you go do this and do that, all kinds of things. So that is not striving. This is only, as I said, a little bit of maintenance only. You little bit of fanning the ember so that it doesn't go off altogether. So This is what I mean here. This is what I mean. The Buddha mean you make an effort to arouse that mindfulness, to make that strong, clear effort to arouse that mindfulness. Then, uh, uh, so therefore, you do not have mindfulness. Then, what are you going to do? Mm. You do not have mindfulness. That when you could, what are you going to do? Now, again, something before I've, before I forget now. Then the mindfulness also, there are two parts of mindfulness here. Now you know that mindfulness is really important. You make the right effort in order to cultivate that mindfulness. Uh, don't make the effort and then you missed out that mindfulness. You go and cultivate into concentration. Then it could be a problem. You have to cultivate that mindfulness. Now, when you cultivate that mindfulness, generally, when you are striving or when you are also in a way at home meditation, there are two types of mindfulness will come in. Two types of mindfulness. They are the same mindfulness, but two different ways because it involves two different set of skills actually. Yeah. Yeah. The first one is the development part of the mindfulness. The first one is the development part of the mindfulness. The second one is the maintenance and to make it continuous part of the mindfulness. These two things. Yeah. And these two things, it involves how you're going to develop the mindfulness, because even when you are in meditation retreat, these two will be really important. Yeah. Even your retreat within like 1 year or 2 years inside a meditation retreat, maybe perhaps some of you, maybe one or two of you, maybe you get stuck in the meditation center, you cannot get out of it, and then you have been meditating since 1 year ago, yeah, 1 year ago, since we have started lockdown 1 year ago. And then let's say you cannot come out of it. You're still able to meditate that long, let's say. And with that also, you also have these two. You have to know when to arouse that mindfulness and when to sustain that mindfulness and to make it continuous, that mindfulness. So these two is really, really important. And it will help you when it comes into your mental development, whether in the samatha practice or in the vipassana practice, then it will be very, very, it will be very helpful for those development. Yeah. So, firstly, let us look into the development part first, the arousing part, not just development, but the arousing part. So you must able to cultivate that mindfulness, not much on the calmness and concentration yet. Uh, so what can you do in the during at the time when you are at home, or whether you are in the retreat also? Uh, Firstly, you have to know the nature of that mindfulness. Then how you're going to translate that, understanding its nature, its characteristic, and then you put into practice. Yeah. Well, to understand it, its characteristic, and then the physical effort that comes together with it. Physical effort. That means how you're going to do the walking meditation, the sitting meditation, the other activities, which is not sitting, which is not walking. That means you are eating, whether you are in the toilet, defecating, urinating, and all those things. Those things also you must able to put in the effort mentally and physically in order to bring up that mindfulness. So therefore, it is important for us to understand the mindfulness, its characteristic. So what is this mindfulness then? Oh, hold on. Hey, just now I supposed to have a file here. Okay. And then I need to close that one. I need to close. Okay, mindfulness. All right. Share the screen. Okay, mindfulness. Generally, you have these two. Let me see. View. All right. Tonight I have only have these slides only. I have nothing else already. Tonight I just thought I was just talking without putting so much on the slides. Here, mindfulness when we are dealing with the suttas or in the Tipitaka, mindfulness as the word Pali word as sati. There are two ways how the Buddha used it. Yeah. A lot of times they use it as remembering the past things that is. You're able to remember them clearly. The second one of the sati is the presentness of the mind. That especially like in the satipatthana, that we use that sati for the present in the presentness of the mind that you are in the present. So to like a samatha meditation also, you need that presentness of the mind on your samatha object. Uh, Now these two are very closely connected. Now, if you want to remember something, let's say just a normal trying to remember what the teacher is talking or what you are reading, you have to be mentally have to be present, right? You cannot like try to remember something, but your eyes are and your ears are somewhere and your heart is somewhere else. Uh, so you when you want to remember something, that means your whole attention has to be there in order for in the future that you can able to recall back what the teachers have mentioned. So this is a remembering in the Pali. So it needs the presence of the mind too. But when it comes into the the practice itself, when it comes into like for example like satipatthana, then we use the presentness of the mind. We cultivate that presentness of the mind onto a present object, not the past object. In the sense that the present is it's um, is here and now. Yeah. Then some people says it's remembering the present. So therefore it's still remembering. Okay, if you want to use it that way also no problem. It's just a play of words. Some people like to use those things, but I want to make it more clearer. Remembering is try to recall the past, present of the mind, because we want to cultivate that presence of the mind in order for us to see things as they really are, that is happening right now in the present moment. So this is the two meaning of sati in the text. Now the word sati also, if in the overall, I mean, if also like in Hindu also, they use the word sati also, but may not be for this remembering of the past and presentness. There's a Hindu god also by the name of Sati, but he's not that Hindu god is not mindfulness. And also there's also the Hindu practice of Sati also, that the this one, the good wife, the good wife, the virtuous wife, if when the husband pass away, then the wife also will have to follow the husband footpath. That means she also has to die. Sometimes has to die. That means she has to fall. She kind of like they have seen it once before. They put it on fire, and then the wife will jump into the fire. Terrible death. Then people will have a good name spread about the wife, and it's a very virtuous wife. that also is a kind of a wrong view. And then this one also, of course, I think in India they already stopped this tradition. But of course, you never know. It's banned. So this is the two part of sati. So therefore, we're going to use this mostly on the presentness of the mind. And with this presentness of the mind that you cultivate, then it also helps you to remember a lot of things. Because sometimes for meditators, especially vipassana meditators, when they cultivate this mindfulness deeply, they can able to recall things long ago. Long ago. Long ago is how long? Maybe in this life, and what maybe there's few here and there yogis can remember even in their past lives too. Real past lives, not just any past life. But we are not going into that part of it. This is just the bonus that comes with development of the mind. It's just a bonus. It's not a purposely you want to cultivate into that area. So these two parts. Now, when you're able to understand that we need to cultivate that presence of the mind, therefore, we have to understand the sati or the mindfulness in that context of presence of the mind. So therefore, the characteristic is that you keep your mind present. You keep your mind present towards the samatha object or towards the vipassana object. If you are towards the samatha object, that means that, for example, if you are doing metta, may I be free from harm and danger, then you have to keep your presence of the mind going through the word. You're going through the word, and then when you keep your mind on it, may I be free from this one. And then don't let the mind goes here and there. Kind of like you are alert of what is going on. But if you are like, may I be free from harm and danger, and you try to focus on it very hard, you try to zoom in and then you try to crush or try to grip onto the words, and then you are going into concentration already. You're not really doing mindfulness anymore, but you are doing into a lot of concentration. But in the beginning part, the presence of the mind is not strong. You may I be free from harm and danger. Hey, yesterday what did I do? I was eating this and that. Oh yes, may I be free from, may all beings here be free from suffering. Then only you go into thinking of so many other things before you come back again. So in the beginning part, the presence of mind is very big, but you are cultivating a little bit here and there. Yeah. You don't have much metta yet in the beginning. May I be free from harm and danger, but you don't feel yourself to be free from harm and danger. May all other beings, may all the people here be free from harm and danger, but you don't feel it yet. That means your metta is not there yet. But your mindfulness is coming in, slowly coming in, because you are keeping the mind slightly this time on the present. So a little bit there. It may not be strong, but it will go into a lot of thinking. So you pull the mind back again. Then there's a little bit of mindfulness there, but not much of a metta yet. So this is on samatha. But on the vipassana, then that mindfulness onto a object which the Buddha has mentioned, that either it falls under what? Bodily objects, feelings, mind, or the Dhamma objects. So let's say take a simple one, take a vipassana object, take a rising, falling, or in breath, out breath. Or a pain, for example, or itchiness, for example, or a movement of a hand or a finger, for example, also can, no problem. So let's take rising, falling of the stomach, of the abdomen. Now, in the beginning part, when you sit down there, you put your attention on the rising and falling. Yeah. And then with that, you put a little bit of labeling. And the labeling is good. And the labeling is good. Even for samatha also, it's good. In the samatha, that may I be free from harm and danger, that is labeling also. That is also labeling. You put a concept there so that your mind stays there. It will the meta will come in later part, but the labeling is really coming in. So to the during in the vipassana also. So in the beginning part, the labeling is important to help to direct the mind, so that you can able to touch, the mind can able to touch upon the rising and falling of the abdomen. So when it's rise, as we said, that you label it as rising. So you notice it as rising. When it's fall, you notice it as falling. You label it as falling. Now, if you do the in breath, out breath, also the same thing. You want to see it in breath, no, you know that it's going in. Out breath, you're also going out. So the concept, the labeling, and the actual object itself, and you touch it together right in the present, then mindfulness comes in. Again, here, it does not sustain for long. After 2 or 3 rising and falling, 2 or 3 in breath, out breath, your mind will go into thinking, go into all kinds of thinking. So, when the beginning of development of samatha and vipassana, they are all the same. Your mind cannot sustain the mindfulness, cannot maintain that mindfulness, cannot able to keep it for long, but your mind will keep running away again and again. You will run away. Sometimes you run away for a long period of time before you're able to pull it back. And pull it back, it just sustain for a short while and then it runs again. So, says there's not much of mindfulness is there. Your mind is running. But anyway, you are starting already. Anyway, it's a good start. You're trying, and we do it again and again. We do it again and again until the mindfulness starts to develop, become clearer, become a little bit more continuous, a bit more longer. So this is the part where the mind brings about towards the presence of the mind. Now, in the presence of the mind too, then the next characteristic you also have to look out for is the heightened awareness, or a clear awareness. Not just a very faded kind of observation, or even the even with the samatha object, it's not faded. It's a clear awareness, a heightened clear awareness in the present state. Now, the clear awareness here, it is not obvious in the beginning of the practice. It's not obvious in the beginning of the practice. It comes in a bit slightly later. But you must able to bring the mind towards that clarity. The clarity comes in also when the mind can able to sustain with the in-breath, out-breath a bit longer. Can sustain with the rising and falling a bit longer. Can sustain with the metta a little bit more longer than when you are actually right in the beginning. Here, again, when you take, for example, the rising and falling, now when you can able to follow the movement of a rising and falling, you take note of the rising and falling. It comes in for a while, it comes in for a while, as you can able to flow with it before your mind goes into thinking. At that short period, that mind becomes more clearer. It becomes more clearer. And that is where the mindfulness also begins to manifest itself for you to see. And the object definitely becomes more distinct for you to see. When it becomes more distinct, that means that some degree of mindfulness becomes better, and the mindfulness becomes more clearer for you. The mindfulness become more clearer, but usually you will not take note of the mind. For a beginner, usually they will not take note so much of the mind, but usually the object usually becomes clearer to you. So the object is clear to you. That means the mind also become clearer to you. So it's okay. So if you're doing samatha meditation, also the same thing. And when you can able to sustain on the, may I be free from harm and danger, may I be peaceful, may I be healthy, may I be happy. If you go through those lines, you can able to sustain the lines a bit more longer, and then that time you can able to visualize that those lines a bit more clearer right now, a bit more clearer than before. So when the lines are a bit more clearer, then that time mindfulness starts to becomes more clearer to you. That means the heightened awareness is slowly coming in together with that present state of mind. So you cultivate these two, especially these two. When your mind becomes able to become stronger, then you see that the objects that you notice too, that you notice in your rising, falling, in breath, out breath, it becomes able to sustain for a longer period of time, and you can able to notice more things that is happening in the rising and falling. Or you're doing the in breath, out breath, also the same thing. You can able to notice the in breath, out breath is happening. More things as is happening in the in breath, out breath. If you are doing the in breath, out breath in the vipassana way, but if you are doing it in the samatha way, then your mind can able to sustain on the in breath, out breath, still able to sustain on the in breath, out breath, and there are less hindrances is coming in. That means the mind can able to hold on to the object a little bit longer. Uh, uh, Also for vipassana meditator, when it says that the mind is clear, also it means that the mind can able to move, not just from rising, falling, but it can able to move to the pain, for example, or move to the itchiness. Then you notice those itchiness, the itchiness also become more distinct for you to see. That is to say that you can able not just to see the whole itchiness as itchiness, but you become able to define the itchiness a little bit more. Oh, the itchiness is one patch there. The itchiness have got a lot of sharp, as if like a thorns poking inside there. Then that means that your mind is much more alert than before. So therefore, that quality of that mindfulness becomes clearer to you. The heightened state of mind. You see, mindfulness usually for a beginner, even sometimes for after you've gone through a retreat or two, sometimes you don't even know what is mindfulness again. But you know how to practice. You don't know how to practice. But in theory, sometimes you may not understand it. But still that one is okay. But they know they are doing correct way, because when they describe the rising, falling, they can describe clearly. When they can describe the pain, they can describe it clearly. When they describe the thinking mind, they can describe clearly. But then they still not very sure what is mindfulness. But it's okay, because now you're able to practice, but your theory part may not be so strong. So that one is okay. That one is okay. You still the practice part, it is much more important. The theory part, if later on it becomes more clearer to you. This mindfulness, they will not show you all its characteristic at one go. Over time, if you are meditating, as you develop, the characteristic of mindfulness become more clearer and in certain ways, and it will show you a multiple facet of mindfulness, not just what you read in the suttas or what just you read in the abhidhamma or the commentary about what is mindfulness. Although those things are right, but when you are actually in the meditation, it shows you in a multiple facet. Then understanding its multiple phases, understanding its nature of that mindfulness, then you will know that whether you have mindfulness at that present moment or you do not have mindfulness in the present moment. Yeah? So one of the criteria is that you're aware that you check yourself that are you being present? Are your mind is clear, heightened up in that sense? Is it clear? Is it heightened up? If you have this two part of it, that means you some degree of mindfulness is there. That's then cultivate some more with that, right? So that that is to say that mindfulness is starting and is good right now. But for you to bring into that part area, I suggest even if you are doing samatha meditation, and you love that samatha meditation very much, it's okay, no problem. Then it would be good to do a little bit of walking meditation. A bit of walking meditation. Whether right now, if you are at home retreat or you are in a full retreat now, make sure you do some walking meditation. Walking meditation is a very good source for mindfulness to arise. Sometimes we neglect a lot of walking meditation, and a lot of times our sitting is not effective. It's not productive also, in fact that a lot of times, because of not walking meditation, what will happen to your meditation, your sitting meditation, is that you will sleep. You will mostly, within 5 minutes, your mind will go blank. Your mind will go into not hallucination, but you'll go into a lot of thinking, all kinds of work and all kinds of things. So if you have a space at your home, if you have a space at your home, now before you do your samatha meditation or vipassana meditation, do a bit of walking meditation and take it a bit more seriously this time. How do you just give you a simple example of how we can able to do walking meditation in the samatha practice? In the vipassana practice, we actually go into quite deep, into a lot of observation and so on. But in the samatha practice, you also can go in a way quite deep also in the walking meditation without looking into the anicca, dukkha, anatta. If you begin to see into anicca, dukkha, anatta, that means you are into vipassana. So we want to do the walking meditation, but without going into the seeing the three characteristics. So how do you do it now? Now here you want to develop that mindfulness without going into vipassana. So what you can do in the beginning is that you take the walking, then this time, if you notice the movement, you take notice of the movement. You take notice of the movement, but you don't worry about how the movement is changing. Whether the movement is going a bit longer, a bit shorter. Sometimes you know a little bit. It's fine. It's fine. No problem. But you don't go and purposely go and look for it. How is the each and every movement is changing. Each and every movement is pulling, pushing. How it changed from pushing, pulling, and that one you go into vipassana type of observation. In the samatha type of observation, noticing is that you keep your mindfulness there. You keep your right step, left step. Then this time, for example, you want to feel the step for a while. You feel it warm or you feel it cold. That's about it. Now you move to the other step. You notice warm or cold, and then after that, the other one, perhaps you notice a hardness or coldness. If you notice this way, you're not going into vipassana yet. You're still in the neither vipassana nor samatha, but you are developing mindfulness. A lot of time people thought that, because I noticed this hardness, softness, we are going into vipassana already. Not yet. Vipassana doesn't come in so fast yet. But because we don't talk about samatha when we are doing in the retreat. We'll guide you into vipassana path. But since we are not doing any retreat right now, then we can talk about walking towards the way of how we develop into the samatha. So you still notice the hardness, softness. Don't worry about it. Some people thought that since I'm doing in breath, out breath, my walking meditation must also be in the in breath, out breath. No, you don't do that. Because if you do that, then mindfulness cannot come in. One of the criteria for mindfulness that another talk we're going to talk about it now, and one of the criteria of mindfulness is that you must have a clear object for you to notice. If the object is not clear, that means your mindfulness won't come in. So you must choose a clear object, then only your mind can be clear. If you choose a very subtle object, you man, all this little object you want to, like your in breath, out breath. Hardly you can able to notice when you are walking with the in breath, out breath. And then you can choose that one. That is where your mindfulness will not come in. Choose a more a grosser object, a gross object. Things like your steps, things like your movement of your leg, for example. Some people don't want to notice the hardness or softness. They notice the whole leg that is walking. That means from the thigh onwards all the way to the calf. Oh, sorry, to the ankle. As if you notice the whole leg. That means the knees are moving, the thighs are moving, the calf is moving. You notice this movement. Take notice of, because they are gross object. So their gross object is easy for the mindfulness to hang in there. So if you can able to do that at your own home or during this time, just do it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. Then only you go into your sitting meditation. Then that time you cultivate a lot of mindfulness, At least when you're doing sitting, you're not so sleepy. Yeah? So this part here is important. Even with that, sometimes even for samatha meditator also, you can actually slow down the movement also when the mindfulness picks up during in the walking meditation, as if like when you are doing a vipassana meditation. But this time, your mindfulness is still on the body, is still noticing on the sensation of the body. But again, you don't go and look into how it change. You don't look at how they change. You just notice it, how the again a lifting, a slower movement, that you can able to notice. Then you keep that slow movement, a comfortable pace, that your mindfulness, that your alertness is there. Then when you go into the sitting meditation, then gently, softly, slowly you go into the sitting meditation, and then after that you put it into your, may I be free from harm and danger. May I be. At that time you see that your mind can able to flow with it very easier. Sometimes people thought that since you are doing metta meditation, so the walking meditation also must be doing metta. Not necessary. Because if you're doing metta, then again your mindfulness has nowhere for it to come up yet. So for you want great mindfulness, you want strong mindfulness, at least to push you for that particular sitting, for that particular hour. So do that walking a little bit before you go and do into your sitting. Now, if you do not have a place for you to walk at home, let's say, then you do the standing meditation. This time the standing meditation is that you notice the whole from the head, notice the sensation of the body, move the body a little bit here, move the attention from one part to another part. Then if you find that there's one part becomes more prominent to you, let's say in the leg area where you step, your two legs are stepping on the floor, then you find that it's warm right now. Now don't try to go and adjust the warmness, and don't try to adjust your body here and there. Just be patient, keep your mind with that warmness, just aware of that warmness. You're aware of that warmness. Take notice of it. Don't go and see how it changes. If you are doing samatha meditation, don't go and see how it changes. Just aware of the warmness. If you find that the warmness is not so clear anymore, then look for another place where it's prominent to you. Maybe a bit of tension in the back. Then notice the tension and be patient with the tension. Stay with that. Be patient with it. Take notice of it. Then the mindfulness comes in. Then the mindfulness comes in. Okay, then after that, you bring over to your sitting. And then you start off, may I be free from harm and danger. Or you want to do the in breath, out breath. Then you find that it's much more clearer. Uh, a lot of time people they thought that since you are doing samatha meditation, then if you are doing in breath, out breath, everything must do in breath, out breath. If you are doing uh, metta meditation, then everything you must do metta meditation. Not necessary. Not necessary. Uh, you have to develop some degree of mindfulness first. Then we'll go into your samatha practice. For the vipassana practice, okay, maybe 10:08 already. Wow. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about it a bit next week. Yeah? Since we're going to talk about this mindfulness a bit more in depth. Huh? Okay, so we stop here for tonight. All right. Oh yes, this Friday we have a Q&A session. And again, you can uh, put give your questions to Brother Benny. Later he will put down in the chat. All right. So we share merits.